He tells them, Nehemiah said, I'm answering them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. We are his servants, and we his servants will start rebuilding. See, this is a shout verse right here. Because see, what you got to remember, there were obstacles set in the way of Nehemiah and the children of Israel. There were those who had powers. I'm talking about governmental powers to try to keep them from their journey. I'm not going to preach that today, amen. There were some who were, because you know all your enemies are not on the outside camp. Some of the ones that are against you shout and holler. But whether they were external enemies or whether they were internal, Nehemiah and the children of Israel made a decision. We will start rebuilding. And saints, the second thing I need for you to just be willing. And notice, here's what I love about Nehemiah. Nehemiah says, we, his servants, somebody say we. God save us from folks in the Christian church who seem to think that is all about them. It's whatever they want, and me, my, and I. We are in this thing together. And saints of God, if one suffers, we all suffer together. If one rejoice, we all rejoice together. But we've got to embrace a communal mindset. And let me tell you something. We need to be concerned about what is going on with the immigrant population in this nation, because we ain't the only ones that God is concerned about. The Bible says that the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. And we are all a part of a global humanity. Say, this willingness embraces a communal concept, but here it is. It says, we will start rebuilding. Let me tell you something. This is important right here, saints. Just be willing to get started. Don't talk yourself out of at least taking the first step. Don't let somebody else talk you out of launching out into the deep. Because if you launch out into the deep, let me tell you, Jesus, the lifesaver, is already out there in the deep. But some of us, we don't even get started because we talk ourselves out of going forward with what isn't going to be. Let me tell you, I'm not telling you something I hadn't had to preach to myself. The truth of the matter is, sometimes instead of focusing on what might go wrong, focus on what is going to go right. Is there anybody in this church who knows what I'm talking about? If you talk about what's going to go right, let that be the fuel that takes you to the next place. Let that be. But if you keep talking about what, they might turn their back on you. They might talk about me. They might not give you no money. They didn't give you no money the last time. You just keep on. Y'all better hear me in this church today. Don't let somebody else, don't let some other obstacle prevent you from at least getting started. Tell somebody, at least get started, because here's what I've come to understand. God has a way of sending the right people at just the right time who can help you to plug the gaps, who can help to bridge you over to the next leg of your journey. Is there anybody in the Temple Church today who's ever seen a God who can show up in the nick of time, step up and stand up in you just when you needed it by sending you the right person? Be willing to get started and be willing to play your part. Everybody's part is important. Let me say that one more time. Everybody's part is important. Let me just make this public service announcement. For those who have my skin pigment, in just a few weeks, we got to go back and vote. I don't want us to do what we historically do when we got to go back to vote. It seems like half the folks who went to vote the other time decide to stay at home and not go back. Let me tell you, everybody's part is important. In fact, point at somebody, tell them your role is important. Tell somebody else your role is important. In fact, tell one more person your role is important. I even think about this church. One of my favorite pictures in the historical archives of the Temple Church is that picture that says, this 28.5 acres belongs to Temple Baptist Church. Reverend Michael Lee Graves meet us now at 25th Avenue North for services. Saints of God, let me tell you something. This property was supposed to never be owned by black folk. They even had it written that no ends should ever own this property. But as I look all over this church, we have other racial demographics here, but the majority of us are people of color, and here we are on property that they said should never be owned by people of color. But let me tell you what, it's because everybody played their part. And throughout the years, we had people who put their homes up for this church. We had people who purchased bonds for this church. We had people who purchased pews for this church. We had people that made pledges for this church. We had children who bought bricks for this church. As we've gone through the years, we've had people who committed to help us pay off the debt. We've had people who played in golf tournaments. We've had people who celebrated with us at Hallelujah Night. But everybody has a role to play, and everybody's role is important.